tattooed how to cherish it, and only after losing it does he regret it. Deeply, I am the second male lead, the one who takes over in the book at the end of the story. Mary married me, and Tom lost his beloved. After we got married, we were very affectionate towards each other. She cared for me in every possible way, even learning to cook congee to nourish my stomach due to my gastric issues. She would also help me pack and coordinate the clothes and ties I needed to wear before my business trip. No matter when I returned home, the lights were always on. Even though I emphasized time and again that she didn't need to do these things, Mary said, "I am your wife. Can I do something for my husband?" I had no choice but to go along with her. Not long ago, Mary asked me, "George, do you want a child that belongs to us?" I thought she had truly fallen in love with me, and I gently rubbed her head with concern. Giving birth is too painful. I don't want you to endure that kind of suffering. At that moment, she rushed into my arms with a touched expression and said, "George, thank you for loving me." As soon as Tom appeared, everything returned to square one. At this moment, I suddenly received this story and carefully read each sentence. I suddenly understood that I was merely a supporting character in the book. A moment later, I finally regained my composure from the shock. I propped myself up to sit on a hospital bed and saw that my legs were wrapped in bandages. My head throbbed even more from the movement. "Mr. George, you have a fracture in your calf, and your head has also suffered an impact. The doctor says you need to rest." "Got it. You can go out now." I picked up the phone beside me and saw the message that Mary had sent me a few hours ago. "George, Tom has a terminal illness. He came to New York to see me. I will meet him once and then return home soon." A bitter smile spilled from the corner of my mouth. When I heard the name Tom, I knew I had lost. Even if the story in the original book has already ended, even if she has already married me, the person in her heart has always been only Tom. Old Chun must have informed her of my car accident as soon as he found out, but she didn't come back. Thinking of this, a wave of dense pain surged in my heart. In her heart, I'm just a backup option, and no matter how happy the author writes we are at the end of the story, it is just an illusion. The person in Mary's heart will always be Tom. It's been 3 days since my car accident, but Mary still hasn't shown up and hasn't come home. Due to an infection in the wound, I had a high fever halfway through. When I was feeling dazed from the heat, I called Mary. After a few beeps on the phone, a mechanical voice came through. "The number you have dialed is currently busy." Soon, a WeChat message popped up. "George, Tom is not in a good situation right now, and I can't take the call. I am burning all over, but my heart feels like it is plunged into an endless abyss, completely cold." I put down my phone. I closed my eyes. That person, Tom, we have met a few times, although not familiar in the business world. Who isn't an old fox? Moreover, now that I have finished the storyline, I understand even better what calculations he has in mind. My body hadn't fully recovered yet, and I fell asleep. When I woke up early the next morning, I received a message from an unknown number. Above is a photo of Mary, busy in the kitchen, her long hair casually tied up at the back. Just a profile view looks incredibly beautiful. She is mine, was mine before, and will be mine in the future. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, remembering when Mary cooked porridge for me. She once smiled and said, "George, this is my first time trying to cook, and you're the only one lucky enough to experience it." It seems that this is not the case at all. In the following days, I called her several times, but without exception, all were hung up. Every time she hangs up the phone, she sends me a message. "George, Tom's condition is serious. I'll stay with him a bit longer before I go back. George, can you give me a little time? Don't call anymore." Each time shorter than the last. Each time more impatient than before. Time flies, and half a month has passed in the blink of an eye. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Mary, who had disappeared for a long time, finally returned, but she also brought back someone. The person who used to always appear before me, looking exquisite, now seems somewhat haggard. She got out of the black Maybach, then walked around to the other side to open the car door and help Tom down. I was pushed to the dining table in my wheelchair, just about to eat when Mary came in supporting Tom. Seeing me sitting in a wheelchair, Mary was taken aback for a moment. "George, what happened to you?" Seeing her expression, I instantly understood that she didn't care at all about my car accident. Watching Mary carefully support Tom, while also showing concern for me, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of irony. The words of love you said to me, promising to grow old together, are all false. Perhaps my expression was too indifferent, and Mary's face changed. She seemed to suddenly come to her senses, turned her head to look at Tom beside her, and pressed her lips together. George, Tommy has a terminal illness and is not in a good condition. I don't know if there will be another chance to see him. So he specifically came to New York to find me, and I only accompanied him for a while. I didn't answer her. I just had the attendant push my wheelchair to the side of the sofa. Then I picked up a document from the table and handed it to Mary. She looked at me in confusion, took the document, and when she saw the words on it, Mary's expression suddenly changed. Do you want to divorce me? Mary's hand trembled slightly as she held the divorce agreement, her tone filled with disbelief. Is it just because I want to see Tom? Yes. As my words fell, Mary's face turned a few shades paler. You clearly know that. I have already broken up, and being with him is just because we are still friends. The so-called friendship is merely one party's unwillingness to let go, while the other party still has lingering feelings. I don't want to waste time. I said coldly, sign here when you have time. Let's go take care of the paperwork. George, Mary was a bit anxious. She released Tom and took a step forward, wanted to walk towards me. But at that moment, Tom, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke up. Mary, I feel unwell. His voice was so soft that it sounded somewhat weak. Tom only said these simple 5 words, and Mary immediately turned around and ran back to his side. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Are you dizzy again? She carefully supported him, her face full of worry and her eyes filled with pain. I turned at the corner of my mouth and met Tom's gaze with a cold smile. Although that sharply defined face pretended to be in pain, his eyes were filled with determination to succeed. He has been with Mary for so many years, so he naturally understands how deep her feelings for him are, and he knows how to handle her. Tom looked at me seriously, with hostility and warning. He was reminding me in this way that no matter how much I do, Mary will only love him. Sign the divorce agreement and leave quickly, Jang. Sister, see the guests off. I can't be bothered to watch them flirt in front of me. Even a glance makes me feel like I've dirted my eyes. I turned the wheelchair and headed to the study. Mary ultimately left with Tom. Hearing the footsteps gradually fade away, I stopped moving the wheelchair, turned my head to look outside, and saw that the two had already gotten into the car. Watching the black Maybach slowly drive away, I couldn't help but smile. I should have known that the second male lead will always just be the second male lead. I might love her and wait for her according to the novel setting, but no matter how much I, the second male lead, invest, the one who will always be treated sincerely by the female lead will forever be the male lead. I entered the study and began to work on the tasks that had been set aside for a while. At 3 a.m, I rubbed my slightly aching eyes, ready to have a sip of tea when my phone suddenly vibrated. There's a photo on the large bed. Tom and Mary embraced each other without a stitch of clothing. The two people's posture was extremely ambiguous, with Tom's fingertips still entwined in Mary's long hair. Her neck and shoulders, exposed, were marked with red marks, making it instantly clear to anyone who looked what had happened. I felt a stab in my heart and turned off the photo. I didn't expect that Tom would actually resort to such worn-out tactics used by women. A big man going to such lengths to compete for a woman really diminishes his worth. Thinking of Mary's anxious and worried expression for Tom, I suddenly recalled the time when I was sick. No matter how much pain I was in, when my stomach was... Sue's flare-up. Mary is always calm and collected. She always handles everything in an orderly manner, whether it's pouring water, getting medicine, or cooking porridge. At that time, I only felt moved, but now that I think about it, if I really cared, how could I have been so calm? In the end, it's just because it doesn't matter, because I don't care and I'm not worried. I just do what I need to do as if I'm completing a task. Thinking of this, I suddenly felt that there was nothing to be upset about. A person who does not love themselves will leave when they leave. I set aside all my emotions and continued to bury myself in work until the sky outside brightened. Only then did I realize I'd stayed up all night. Fortunately, the documents that were stockpiled earlier have been mostly dealt with. But just as I came out of the study, Sister Jang walked over and said, "Sir, the lady has returned." I was already very tired after being busy all night. At this moment, hearing that Mary was back, I instinctively frowned. I really didn't want to get entangled with her. Mary had changed into a new outfit. She stood at the door, looking at me with a hint of grievance. Perhaps due to staying up all night with Tom, there were some dark circles under her eyes, and her eyes were also streaked with red. Upon seeing me, she pressed her lips together, and her hand beside her also tightened its grip. "George, I never thought about divorcing you. I know you must have misunderstood me and Tom, right? I can explain. I'm not someone who likes to drag things out. Since we were going to cut ties, let's do it cleanly." I found her indecisive demeanor, being pulled in two directions, quite amusing. I laughed at her indecision, laughed at her endless entanglement, and even more, laughed at her inability to understand her own heart. I tugged at the corner of my mouth and said, "Is it a misunderstanding? I have eyes and ears, and I can tell clearly. It's you, Mary, who's been acting by my side for a whole year. You don't actually believe it yourself, do you?" Hearing my words, Mary looked at me in disbelief, her eyes dimming slightly. "George, what are you talking about? I don't want to make things sound worse. If you still care about your reputation, then don't try to have it both ways, like being stepped on a sore spot." Mary suddenly stood up. The grievance on her face had vanished. Her beautiful brows furrowed, and there seemed to be confusion in her eyes. "What exactly are you playing at with me? You're a man. Can you be a little more magnanimous?" Mary looked at me, her tone not as gentle as before. Seeing me silent, Mary continued, "George, the love you speak of is nothing more than this. Tom has a terminal illness, while you only had a car accident. Can't you tell which is more serious? There are so many people around you who could take care of you, but Tom came from Texas to New York, and he only has me." Hearing her words, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I never knew that Mary could be so eloquent and had such a fierce side to her, that I am her husband and Tom is her former boyfriend who once looked down on her. She asked me who is lighter and who is heavier. It's really too ridiculous that I opened the photo that Tom had sent me earlier and placed it directly in front of her. You've already rolled in a bed with him, and you want me, as your husband, to be more generous? If you were me, could you be magnanimous? Mary, it seems that I have only truly come to know you today." Seeing the photo on her phone, Mary's mouth was half open. She had just been speaking confidently, but now she suddenly fell silent. A moment later, Mary spoke again. I. Mary couldn't say a complete sentence for a long time, stammering out an explanation. "This photo was just Tom deliberately provoking you for my sake. It's not true at all. Do you really have to divorce me just for a photo?" I smiled at her and said, "Mary, don't you think this is really boring? It also makes people feel very annoyed that I have never said such words to her after being together for so long." Mary's expression changed repeatedly, and finally, she bit her lip. "Okay, George, do you find me annoying now?" She looked at me and nodded heavily. "All right, since you insist on this, then leave. Just make sure you don't regret it in the future." After speaking, Mary turned on her heel and left. Looking at her silhouette, I lowered my brows and smiled softly. Years of waiting and the sincerity given have all gone to waste. For a period of time afterward, I was recuperating in the villa. The doctor said my leg needs to be well taken care of and that I shouldn't engage in frequent activities for a short period. So I obediently followed the doctor's advice. Important meetings are conducted via remote video, and important documents are delivered to the villa for processing by assistants. Mary was always by Tom's side. Tom said he had a brain tumor and wouldn't live much longer, so Mary stayed by his side without leaving, fulfilling all his requests. Previously, Tom and I had only met a few times at business banquets and had almost no private interactions. But now, I receive anonymous text messages and photos every few days. It's just that Mary did something for him again, accompanied him to some place, and bought him something. I watched it and found it extremely childish. Compared to Tom, I'm not as free as he is. I'm very busy. Recently, there's been a resort project in Texas. The project itself is not very large, but due to its advantageous geographical location and government support, the future return on investment is definitely promising, and several companies are eyeing this lucrative opportunity. I am determined to succeed in this project, so I've put in an extraordinary amount of effort to ensure everything is foolproof. My subordinates and I confirmed the project proposal over and over again. While I was busy with these matters, Mary seemed unaware of my determination to divorce her. Since the day she left the villa, there has been no news from her. Was the divorce agreement properly signed and sent to me? Nor was there a scheduled time for me to handle the divorce procedures. Instead, from time to time, they post seemingly ambiguous updates in their social circles. When a promise is spoken, it is sincere, but sincerity is always fleeting in emotions. Someone always has to bow their head first. Or perhaps to annoy me, she occasionally sends photos of herself with Tom. A person may encounter many people in their lifetime, but only one is the right one. Only by leaving the wrong ones can you meet the right one. But no matter what she sends, I pretend not to see it. In fact, I really didn't take a close look. I don't have time to waste on such meaningless things. Mary called after leaving home for half a month. George, I've already signed the divorce agreement. When shall we go through the formalities? Although Mary said this, I could still sense a hint of probing in her tone. It was as if she was expecting me to refuse her. I quickly understood that even now, she still thinks I am just angry. I have no doubt that if I just say a few soft words now, Mary will immediately come down the steps, and we will be back to being as good as new, just like before. Every time we have an unpleasant moment, it's always me who comforts her. Mary always manages to strike the perfect balance. She neither makes it easy for others to take advantage of her, nor does she go too far. Unfortunately, this time I have to disappoint her. Send me the address, and I'll have my assistant go pick it up. I have already made an appointment for the divorce procedures, and in half a month, I will be able to go through with it. I will send the time and address to your phone. Hearing my words, the breath on the other end of the phone seemed to pause for a moment. It was as if they didn't expect me to react this way. At that moment, Tom's voice suddenly came from the other end of the phone. Mary, what are you doing? Why aren't you coming in? I'm feeling a bit dizzy. I'm coming right now. Mary's anxious voice came through, and the next second, the call was cut off. I looked at my phone, which had already gone black, and tugged at the corner of my mouth. Even after everything, she still wouldn't let go of both sides. She really thought I was an easy fool to deceive. What made me find it even more ridiculous was she's not a doctor. If Tom really felt unwell, would her being by his side make him better? Ultimately, only for the people and things we care about do we lose our rationality. Once we stop caring, we become instantly clear-headed, just like I am with Mary. Busy times always pass particularly quickly, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had gone by. Perhaps having heard the news that Mary and I would soon be getting a divorce, Tom stopped sending me harassing messages. Or maybe because Tom was there to comfort her, Mary also didn't come to bother me anymore, and my days became much quieter. On the day we agreed to handle the paperwork, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau on time. As the assistant pushed me out of the car, I saw Mary walking towards me, holding Tom's hand. From a distance, seeing them so inseparable, one would think they were there to collect a marriage certificate. Let's go. Mary walked up to me, her beautiful brows slightly furrowed. This time, even in front of me, she showed no intention of being discreet. Instead, she appeared very calm. Just as Mary was about to follow me into the Civil Affairs Bureau, Tom suddenly pulled her back. Mary looked at Tom in confusion. Tom, what's wrong? When facing Tom, Mary's voice was particularly gentle. Tom looked at her affectionately. Mary, will you blame me? It's all because of me that you really need to think it through. I'm afraid you might regret it in the future. Saying this, Tom reached out and tucked a stray hair behind her ear. A touch of emotion appeared on Mary's face. She raised her hand and held Tom's hand back, saying earnestly, Tom, I'm already very touched that you came all the way from Texas to New York just to see me. How can all of this be blamed on you? It's clearly some people being petty. She implied something, and when she said the last few words, she glanced at me intentionally. The two of them were harmonizing here, and even watching the show, I had lost my patience. I raised my hand to check my watch and coldly said, "It's almost time for our appointment. How much longer are you going to chat?" Only then did Mary release her tightly clasped hand with Tom, and she looked at me seriously. After confirming that she saw not a trace of reluctance from me, Mary walked towards me. "Let's go in." The paperwork was completed quickly, and when we came out, Tom was still waiting outside. Upon seeing the divorce certificate in Mary's hand, Tom raised his eyebrows, a hint of pride in his eyes. It was as if he had won something. "Mary!" He quickly stepped forward and pulled Mary into his arms. "Great, you're finally mine again." But there was no happy expression on Mary's face. She gripped the divorce certificate tightly, almost distorting it. A few seconds later, it seemed Mary suddenly came to her senses. She reached out and hugged Tom back. "Tom, you have no idea how painful this past year has been without you. Every night, I would think of the times you were by my side. Fortunately, everything is still in time. Fortunately, I finally found you again." Watching Tom confess his feelings to Mary with such passion, I raised my eyebrows slightly. He really knows how to act, but I wonder how long he can keep it up. I wasn't interested in watching the performance any longer, so I had my assistant push me into the car and leave. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Tom still holding Mary in place, seemingly still in his deep confession. A few days later, Mary returned to Texas with Tom. However, Tom didn't take Mary back to his villa. Instead, he arranged for her to stay at a hotel. On the first day Mary returned to Texas with Tom, I saw her post intimate pictures. Photos of the two of them on social media in front of a large floor-to-ceiling window. Tom was hugging her from behind, and the night view outside was stunning. The caption read, "After all the twists and turns, I'm back by his side." There were many comments from mutual friends below, but most were questions. "What's going on? I'm a bit confused. Wait, is there a sequel to Tom's wife-chasing saga? He treated his wife so badly before, and now he can win her back? That's hard to judge. Congratulations. Congratulations, Tom. He has won the beauty. I don't know what to say. I wish you good luck. Congratulations, Tom." The last two commenters were Tom's good brothers. One was Gary, the second son of the Clement family, and the other was Edgar, the third son of the Twinkle family. Both of whom were young masters who spent their days playing around. Seeing the comments, I just smiled and then closed my phone to continue with my work. In 2 days, there would be a bidding meeting for the Texas Resort project, which I had to attend in person. I needed to finish processing the remaining documents tonight. Early the next morning, I set off for Texas. After resting at the hotel for a day and attending a few remote meetings, the day quickly passed. Upon arriving at the bidding meeting, I ran into an old friend, Peter, the head of the ALD group. "George, I didn't expect us to be eyeing the same project." I smiled and exchanged a few pleasantries with him when Peter suddenly said, "By the way, George, you and Mary?" Since Mary had already posted on social media, I didn't hide anything and mention the divorce. Peter looked surprised. "This Tom has really messed up this time." I smirked slightly, but didn't react to his words and turned back to my seat. Not long after I proposed a divorce to Mary, I heard something. After 6 months of fruitless pursuit, Tom found a substitute who looked about 70% like Mary. 2 months ago, on Tom's birthday, Gary jokingly said, "Tom, do you really like Mary that much? Have you ever thought that maybe you're just unwilling to let go?" At that time, Tom swore he truly loved her. "Of course I love her. I can't live without her." TSK, you're just fooling yourself. If you really couldn't live without her, you wouldn't be looking for a substitute. Besides, she's already married, George, and started anew while you're still stuck in place. Tom's face turned pale. Even if she marries Mary, George, she still loves me in her heart. As long as I use a little bit of a pity strategy, she'll come back to me. As the conversation went on, the last few people made a bet. They bet whether Mary would leave me for Tom. Then Tom went to New York and lied to Mary, claiming he had a terminal illness. At that time, Gary also shared this bet in their little group, allowing everyone to place their bets, so quite a few people in the circle knew about it. As time went on, it eventually reached my ears. However, Mary remained completely unaware of it. She firmly believed that Tom had little time left and still loved her, so even while dragging her sick body, she insisted on going to New York to see him. Mary was deeply moved, staying by his side, even neglecting me, her husband, for him. But in the end, what she thought was true love was merely a bet among a few wealthy young men. However, none of this concerns me anymore. I have no interest in meddling in others' affairs. Everyone must take responsibility for their own choices. If she loves to fall into a pit twice, then let her fall. After a whole day of the bidding meeting, I ultimately secured the project. As the meeting concluded, I was just about to leave when Tom blocked my way. He wore a serious expression, completely different from how he acted in front of Mary. "George, your wife ran off with me, and you still have the mind to work." I looked at his gloomy face and smirked. "It's just a woman. If she runs away, then so be it. Someone whose heart isn't in it is just an empty shell. What's the point of forcing them to stay? But the projects I secured and the money I earned are all real, don't you think?" Tom's expression darkened even more, and I smiled, turning to leave. After securing the project, there were still follow-up matters to handle, so I had to stay in Texas for another week. During this time, news about Tom and Mary kept coming in. Even if I didn't want to hear it, there were always people talking about it in my ear. One day, Peter invited me to dinner, and while we were eating and chatting in the restaurant, he suddenly remembered something and laughed. "You don't know? The night the bidding meeting ended, Tom invited Gary and Edgar to drink at the club, leaving Mary all alone at the hotel. Everyone in Texas knows about Tom. He's notoriously fickle. Mary fell for his tricks again this time," Peter said, and that night was quite a scene. When Mary got the news and rushed over, Tom was busy kissing another woman. The room was filled with a strong smell of alcohol and a pungent smoke. Mary couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Tom, didn't you say you had a terminal illness? You're here drinking, smoking, and playing with women? Or are you trying to throw your life away?" Her voice trembled because at that moment, Mary had begun to vaguely realize something, but she still wouldn't give up. Tom laughed recklessly while holding the woman. "Mary, only you would believe such a poor lie. I begged you before, and you wouldn't turn back. I humbly asked you to stay, but you still married George. You slapped me in the face back then. Do you think I would still be waiting for you now?" Mary stood rigidly in place, her face turning pale inch by inch. "So you were lying to me?" Tom raised an eyebrow. "What else? You really want to come back to me?" "Mary, stop pretending. You think I haven't noticed? You don't want to leave George at all, do you? When he mentioned divorce, you hesitated, and now you're acting all sentimental in front of me." Every word he said was like a sharp blade stabbing into Mary's heart. "Why do you have to do this? Why? We've clearly already broken up. What do I owe you? Why, after all this? Is time do you still want to torment me?" Mary looked at Tom with red eyes. She had loved him for many years, to the point of losing herself. In the end, he trampled on her self-esteem and sincerity to start anew. She pulled away, but when everything settled, he came back to stir her heart. The person she once loved deeply still held a place in her heart that belonged to him. That's why she would leave me for Tom. Seeing Mary so heartbroken, Tom felt not a single ripple in his heart. He smiled coldly, because I made a bet with him, and I should thank you for letting me win $3 million. Now that the game is over, you can leave. Mary was provoked by Tom's words and smashed everything in the private room. After smashing, she went crazy, crying and laughing. Gary posted the video of that scene. TSK. It's good that you divorce her. A woman like that is better off without. Listening to Peter vividly describe that night in front of me, I felt a little emotional stir. I just thought Mary was very pitiful. However, Peter was right about one thing. A woman like Mary is better off without. She's blind, and so was I. If I weren't blind, how could I have been so obsessed with such a woman? Fortunately, the mistake has been corrected in time. After finishing dinner with Peter, as soon as we walked out of the restaurant, we were stopped. Mary was wearing a dress, her face bare. In just a few days, she had lost a lot of weight. Seeing me, she approached with red eyes. George, Peter, who had come out with me, was also momentarily stunned upon seeing Mary. Before I could speak, Peter mocked. Miss Mary really has a good hand, stepping on 2 boats. That boat sank, so she wants to grab onto this one. But Miss Mary seems to not realize that this boat has already capsized. I couldn't help but laugh at his description, but this laughter fell into Mary's eyes as mockery. She tightly clutched her dress, her eyes red, and large tears suddenly slipped from her eyes. George, I know I was wrong. I made a mistake. Can you forgive me? I shouldn't have treated you like that for Tom. He deceived me. He was playing me from the beginning to the end. At this point, the last trace of color drained from Mary's face. I really regret it. Please forgive me. Let's remarry. I will love you well and take care of you in the future. I silently watched her apologize, repent, and plead for forgiveness until she finished saying everything she could say. I slowly spoke. Are you done? Mary stared blankly at me, her voice hoarse and broken. George, if even you don't want me, then I really have nowhere to go. I couldn't help but frown and interrupted her. Mary, we are already divorced. Your matters have nothing to do with me. I'm very busy. I have no time or obligation to listen to you talk this nonsense. After saying that, I stepped forward. Mary wanted to follow, so I stopped and turned to look at her. As a couple, let me remind you, I don't have Tom's good temper and patience. Don't come and bother me again. Her steps faltered, and she didn't take another step forward. The way she looked at me was as if she was meeting me for the first time. Thinking about it, I used to like her holding her in the palm of my hand, giving her all my patience and good temper. Perhaps it was that version of me that gave Mary the illusion that I was easy to talk to, which is understandable, but I was never that kind of person. Never. In the following days, Mary called me a few more times and sent several messages. After being thoroughly annoyed, I directly blocked her. On the day I returned to New York, as the car drove to the airport, I had just gotten out when Mary ran over, holding a food container. George, I made you some stomach-nourishing porridge. Her eyes were filled with hope as she carefully offered the porridge to me. I glanced down and then looked away. Your little tricks won't work on me. Her pale lips parted slightly. But you used to. I used to indulge you because I wanted to, but now I don't want to. Mary, once unfaithful, always untrustworthy. You understand this principle, right? I'll say it one last time. Don't harass me. It's disgusting. I walked past her and straight into the airport. Back in New York, my days were as busy as ever. Every day was filled with work, and occasionally I would relax with friends over tea, meals, or golf, which was quite comfortable. A month later, I heard news about Mary and Tom again. Mary had given up her studies to be with Tom, willingly playing the role of a housekeeper for him. After leaving Tom, she came back to me, but all these years she had never truly experienced the hardships of life. But now it was different. She was divorced from me, and Tom had kicked her out. Naturally, Mary lost her carefree life, but how could she accept that? Unable to entangle me, she turned back to harass Tom. That night, Tom and a few rich kids planned a race on the Riverside Highway. To stop him, Mary stood in front of the sports car. Tom, if you want, let me stay by your side, then just run me over. That day, I was involved in a serious car accident on my way home. One thought he wouldn't crash. The other thought he could dodge. Tom pressed the gas pedal and crashed into Mary. She didn't die, but it was worse than death. Her legs were crippled, and she would never stand again. Tom was sentenced to 8 years in prison for intentional injury. Neither of them came out unscathed. When I heard this news, my company had just secured a big project. The worst thing in life is never losing a loved one, but losing yourself because you love someone too much.